live from our studios in Kingstown, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. It's your favorite Thursday night show, Up Late with Sehon Marshall. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the host of tonight's show, Sehon Marshall.
Good Thursday night, and welcome to this another edition of Up Late with Sehon Marshall. I am, of course, your host, Sehon Marshall, and tonight we're coming from Norway. Yes, I'm still in Norway. It's cold. Oh my word, it's cold. But that's where I'm at. And listen, I know that President Please and others have been late, but please forgive me. I'm out on vacation, but I'm trying to make sure that I never miss a single commentary or episode that is there for you. So listen, please, as I said, be patient with me, forgive me, bear with me. I return home soon, and when I get back home, things will be more like what you're accustomed to. All right. So good night to you wherever you're from, wherever you're logging in from. As always, when you log on, say where you are joining from, so that we can all engage with you and acknowledge you, each other. We can acknowledge each other. People who are on the live like you would, naturally be able to say, well, oh yeah, this person is from LA, or I'm from Canada too, and so on. And that's how families are born. I remember when I started. Oh my Lord, I started on Star FM. Many comrades became very very close to me because we were able to bond through radio. I know where individuals are from. I knew what they were doing, and we were able to bond. So hey, when you log on, please say where you're logging on from, so that we can recognize each other. All right. Now, let me thank all of you who sent me congratulatory messages on my Facebook post, my Instagram post, and so forth this week. For this Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Thank you so much. As I told you, and based on the video I published, this week, on Tuesday the 24th, I was called to the Bar of England and Wales. So I'm officially a lawyer in England. My name was added to the rolls. As a matter of fact, I think tomorrow, Friday, the Times of England will be publishing the names of all of those individuals who were called to the bar through Gray's Inn. The entire list will be published tomorrow. And so maybe I should ask my niece to pick me up a copy of the Times. I could keep it and frame that copy. So many of you, hundreds of you, sent me congratulatory messages on Facebook and so forth, WhatsApp and Instagram, TikTok, and I've not been able to individually thank you and show my appreciation to those of you who have done so. And it's not because that I am ignoring anybody, I don't want to. It's a lot, as you can suspect. So I'm doing it here. I'm thanking all of the individuals, every last one of you who reached out to me on social media, whichever platform, and congratulated me for being called to the Bar of England and Wales. I want to thank all of you, and I appreciate your support. I appreciate your congratulations. And those of you who've been, let me tell you, there are a few individuals who stuck by me in a very personal way throughout that journey, and they know who they are, and I appreciate them. And there were those of you who weren't as close and as intimate, but you knew I was studying, and every now and again you'd reach out to me and you'd give me some encouragement. I appreciate all of you. My family, I'm telling you, they've been solid. My sisters, listen, they love me like a hog love mud. They've been there for me. They continue to be there for me. And individuals who are close to me, thank you all guys so much for everything. All right. Now, today, don't forget, of course, like, share, subscribe. Those of you who are supporting, thank you very much. Those of you who are doing your monthly subscription as members, thank you so much as well. All right. And encourage individuals to do that as well. That's one of the ways. Listen, doing the program overseas for the last week or so has not been inexpensive, especially for the last 4 or 5 days I've been, in Europe. It has not been inexpensive, and so it is the contribution from people like you who are helping me to do this, even while I'm not at home. So it's easy at home. I have my equipment at home, I have my internet at home, and so forth. When I travel, it becomes a bit more expensive. I have to work with checked luggage now, and pay more, and it's all the expenses. So to do this, it's a costly venture. While I'm out, I could have taken the easy way out and just simply said, "Listen, I have no shows until I get back," but that's not what commitment looks like. That's not what discipline looks like. And I wanted to show you that I'm committed and I'm disciplined and I'm focused on what we're doing here at Uplift with Sehon Marshall. I'm not present, please. And so I ensured that we do not miss a program. And like I said, I left St. Vincent and the Grenadines 9 a.m. on a Wednesday last, and you have had all of your programs every single day so far. All right, and we hope to continue that until I return home. So thank you so much for your support, financial and otherwise. All right, now today I want to delve into crime. I want to delve into the issue of crime. We've seen some things happening in St. Vincent and Grenadines. They're not new. They're not new. Back in 2000 and I think 3 or thereabout, we saw the incident where a young lady was beheaded in Tokyo in broad daylight. 2 days ago, we saw where an individual, Muntai, was chopped, hacked like an animal in broad daylight. There was no, there was no hiding. There was no cover of darkness. An individual thought that was okay, but it's because of anger, frustration, whatever. He felt that it was okay, that he had the right to take a sharpened cutlass and just chop up somebody like you chop up meat. A few days before that, you had two what appeared to be homicides: a body found in Edinburgh and somebody shot in Lomans, same day. And then on the weekend, you had somebody shot in Diamond. So between the weekend and Tuesday, you had four homicides. Four. Now, that brings to the total to 10 homicides, and we're still in March. 10. Now, I want to show you, I want you guys to see a headline that appeared in one of the newspapers recently. Right? So let's look at the first. Look at the first one I want to do is to show you the headline. And the second slide would be the story itself. Right? So slide one, opposition leader alarmed by the spate of violent killings in SPG. At that time, Godwin Friday, let me put this more central so that, and on YouTube sometimes well, maybe not, so you'll probably get this one, because yes, right? So we have Godwin Friday, who was at the time the leader of the opposition, being alarmed by the spate of crimes in St. Vincent and Grenadines. Now, let me say this ultimately straightforward, without any watering mouth. One murder is one murder too many. And so there used to be a time in St. Vincent and the Grenadines when we were alarmed by a murder. When there was a murder, the place would feel very, very somber for a while, and people whispering, it's sad, it's gloomy because someone was murdered. It seems that we've gotten to a place where we are numb and life goes on. We've gotten to that place where we are numb and life goes on. So in this case, Godwin Friday was alarmed by the spate of crimes in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, this was I'm using my laptop, so please forgive me. This was in July. This was in July of that particular year. And I want you to see what the alarm came from. In July, Godwin Friday was alarmed by the spate of crimes in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and this was what this was the number of violent crimes of murders that he was lamenting, and I want to read it for you. Let me read it for you and put it up there. Now, in July, Godwin Friday was saying that he noted, this is in 2018, that SVG had recorded 18 murders as of July. 18. And for him, that was an alarming number. We were at halfway through the year, we had 18 murders. I think that year probably went up to have an excess of 30 something murders that year. But he was sounding the alarm bell in July when there were 18 murders. Now, he's leader of the opposition. He's there to represent the opposition. He's there to represent the people of St. Vincent and Grenadines. In that capacity, he was doing his job. So I can't vex with Dr. Friday. Then there was another headline, again from Dr. Friday. And where are we now? This headline, again, he is addressing the issue. Where is it now? I don't understand. It's not coming in. Where are we now? Where is it now? Yes. Let's try it again. Okay, I'm not getting that one. I don't know why I'm not getting that one. But in this instance, in April of that year, Dr. Friday was again lamenting the problem with crime, violent crime in St. Vincent and Grenadines, and there were 12. At the time, he was sounding the alarm in April because there were 12 murders in St. Vincent and Grenadines. So in July, he sounded the alarm one year when there were 16 murders. In April one year, he sounded the alarm when there were 12 murders. This year, currently, today, the 27th of March, we are at 10. If Dr. Friday, Prime Minister of St. Vincent and Grenadines, is to be consistent, he should start sounding the alarm. Because we are pretty much on par to be having 12 murders in April. Now, he may be able to turn it around. His government may be able to turn it around, and I'll get to you why I'm speaking this way. He may be able to stem the flow, and there may be no more murders, no more homicides between now and July. And if that happens, I would be one to come out and speak positively about that trend, because it would mean that we're having a downward trend in terms of violent crimes. But so far, no one in his government has come out. No one in his government has come out and spoken about the trend of violent crimes that we've had. As I said, within the last week, it isn't even a week yet, we had 4. 3 of them were gun-related crimes, and 1 was a chopping incident. Now, crime is something that affects countries across the globe, including St. Vincent and Grenadines. And I want to address this because, like I said on Present Please, I expect them to come at me and ask me where I was all the time and why I wasn't talking all the time, which is something that they love to ask you when they're losing the argument. But the truth is, I have always been talking. My voice has always been a loud, loud voice on issues affecting St. Vincent and Grenadines, whether it's social issues, issues on education, issues on foreign policy, political issues, economic issues. I ain't no economist, but I address economic issues. Whether it's on this program, Uplift with Sehon Marshall, we have had different people on talking about economic issues. As a talk show host, when I'm on Star Radio, whether it's Morning Scoop or Street Beat, if I call into Boom or any radio station and there's an issue that's economic in nature, I seek to address it within my limited knowledge. If it's something that's social, education, crime, I speak on those things all the time. So my voice has always been out there. The thing is, many have not always agreed with my position or my perspective. They've been dismissive of my position and my perspective because they've politicized the issue. And once I talk, simply because I support Labour, my position, my perspective is dismissed. So it didn't matter what I was talking about. No one cared. Well, I mean, I said no one, but many of them who didn't support the former administration dismissed my comments, or bootlicker and those type of things. And they had no use for my comments. So don't come and tell me I wasn't talking. I've always been talking. And most importantly, I've not just been talking, I've been speaking consistently. So, for example, on the issue of crime, I am one of those individuals who agreed that crime is complex. Crime, including violent crime, is a complex phenomena that has multiple facets and causes. I remember the NDP used to push the narrative that people are getting into crime because of poverty. And it wasn't until sometime last year, or maybe late the year before, that Sinclair Leacock, now Minister of National Security, made the admission, and it must have been painful for him to make that admission after so long, that if that were the case, a country like Trinidad and Tobago, that is doing well economically, has such a high crime rate, it kind of throws water on the issue that crime is directly related to poverty. Now, you may find individuals in impoverished circumstances committing certain types of crimes. But like I said, I've always been consistent, acknowledging the fact that the issue of crime is complex. It's not a simple thing as, oh, the people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are poor and so they commit crime, which was one of the narratives of the NDP for many, many years. Poverty and crime. We're poor, so we have plenty of crime. The crime is because of poverty. We sought to suggest that it's much broader than that. As a matter of fact, I remember when they started to a narrative about people are frustrated, sorry, because they're not working and so forth. And Dr. Gonzalez made the point as Prime Minister that if people are frustrated, they wouldn't commit murder, they'd commit suicide. They dismissed that. I remember one time at a conference in Trinidad, Dr. Gonzalez made the point that there are some men in our society who, and the term he used was controversial, but he was speaking quite frankly because we are living in this society. And we have to be honest with this thing. Honest discussions aren't seasonal or convenient or contextual. They ought to be consistent. Let us have these honest discussions consistently and openly on issues affecting us. So he spoke openly. He said, look, there are men in our society who go after what we refer to as high maintenance ladies. And we knew what the term meant. All of us know what the term meant. Individuals, their partners, love to spend on themselves. They take pride in the way they look. So their hair must be done consistently. Their nails must be done consistently. Their toes. They don't wear the same suit twice and those type of things. High maintenance. And he made the point that some of those men, to take care of some of their partners, engage in criminal activities. And again, the mockery was out there. I mean, on radio they played, they criticized him, they spoke as if he was speaking something that wasn't true. You see, it was about the messenger. Had somebody else brought the message, they probably wouldn't have a problem with it. But the message came from someone who they had already turned their mind from, it seems, and it didn't matter what he said. They were going to criticize it. So they made a big issue out of that as well. there was no real discussion about some of the root causes of crime. One of the experiences I had when I served as the Deputy Consul General in New York was the fact that the US was deporting violent criminals. Now, there were individuals who left St. Vincent and the Grenadines when they were 4 years old, 6 years old. The most they could remember is the name of a village. They don't know nobody in the village. These are people who are in their 50s and 60s. They went to the States, they committed violent crime, robbery, armed robbery, and so forth, murder. These individuals hone their skills in as it were, international markets. And once they had served their time in prison, the US was sending them back simply because they had a passport that had been St. Vincent 40 years ago, 35 years ago. They were sending them back. And those individuals who were a lot more developed in their criminal activities were coming home and influencing some of these young men. They come back with an accent, some brand name shoes, some jewelry, and the young men are drawn to that. They're drawn to that. And so you had a situation where these men were influencing our young boys into crime. All of these are conversations that we tried to have. We did. But many of the supporters of the NDP, driven by the narrative of the leaders of their party, were not interested in having any of those discussions. They were too busy politicizing the issue of crime. They were too busy politicizing the issue of crime. So much so that the position of the NDP while in opposition was made clear, very, very clear, by Godwin Friday. And I want you to pay attention to what Friday said. And you heard this clip already, please. You heard it in person, please. But I want you to pay attention to that clip again. I'm going to play it for you so you can hear how the NDP, while it was in opposition, politicized the issue of crime. There wasn't a broad-based discussion on what some of the real causes were. Their thing was, if they could blame somebody and get Vincentian sufficiently riled up and angry at someone, that may be their road to government. And so this was Dr. Friday addressing of crime at a public meeting.
Crime and violence, especially crime against women and young girls. These are the things that our country are known for. We have to reverse that history. It is not handed down to us as something immutable, unchangeable. These are things that we can shape for ourselves. We have to lay the blame for that at Ralph Gonsalves and the ULP feet. Government is to blame.
Now, there are three things about that clip that I took issue with. No, more than three, but there were three things I point out immediately that I took issue with. The first thing was that he said violent crimes, especially among towards women and young girls, are things that our country is known for. That's not true. That's not true. In that regard, Godwin Friday, then opposition leader seeking to be the Prime Minister of our country, was seeking to sully the name of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and portraying something about us that we were not. We were known, he said, for violent crimes, and violent crimes, especially against women and young girls. So I took issue with that. But it was red meat that the base of the NDP could run with, and run they did. The second thing he said that the issue of crime and the violent crimes being committed must be laid squarely at the feet of Ralph Gonsalves and the ULP. A clear attempt, and successfully so, to politicize the issue of crime. It was labor that was responsible for crime. It was Ralph Gonsalves, the political leader of the Labour Party, that was responsible for crime in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And the third thing is, to drive it home, he said the government must be blamed for the crime. Government is to be blamed. So the responsibility for crime must, I wipe our playback, because I want you to listen to the language. This wasn't a situation where he was suggesting something that it was optional or discretionary. It was absolute. Let me play God on Friday one more time so you could hear him speak.
Crime and violence, especially crime against women and young girls. These are the things that our country are known for. We have to reverse that history. It is not handed down to us as something immutable, unchangeable. These are things that we can shape for ourselves. We have to lay the blame for that at Ralph Gonsalves and the ULP feet. Government is to blame.
We have to. We have to. As little children growing up, as a little child growing up, when I would speak to my parents, Mr. So-and-so say have to. No, I don't have to. That's what you call compulsory. Remember as little children, we used to say, you have to, bong to, and compel to. And all the tongue people ain't going to know about them thing there. But me country people, me legal people, you know exactly. As little children and so on, when you want to, drive something home, you say, you have to, bong to, and compel to. Mandatory. Obligatory. You have to lay the blame of crime at the feet of Ralph Gonsalves and the ULP. Government is to be blamed. There were mentioned no other option, no other thing, nothing else. This was an attempt clearly to politicize the issue of crime, to try and get votes from crime, from the issue of crime, making it something that it was not. The population that listened, of course, I am on Star Radio. They want to hear me talk because I lick boots. I don't, I decide that I sing for my supper. So they want to hear that. They want to hear NDP 97.1 because they cheerleading, they carrying the message of the NDP. Every time it's crime, 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 crime. Same thing with Boom. Well, don't talk about Nice Radio. They carried the narrative for years that the crime was the responsibility of the ULP and the ULP was to be blamed. So when you ask me, where was my voice all the time and why I'm not talking? My voice was always there. But I wasn't saying blame Ralph. I wasn't saying blame the government. I was not saying you must and you have to blame Ralph and the ULP for crime. No, I was saying we have an issue with crime. Yes. One, the state has a role to play. You could listen back to any tape I made when recording on Star Morning Scoop. The state has a role to keep its citizens safe. Absolutely. And I will never absolve the state of that responsibility. But I was also very consistent in saying that the issue of crime as it is now, guys involved in the drug trade, guns around the place. As a matter of fact, and I've said this many times, there is one politician that I know in the whole of St. Vincent and the Grenadines who publicly stated that people has come to he for money to buy bullet for gun. I ain't talking pellet to shoot guana. The Man coming to he for $50 and thing to buy bullet for gun. Now, what are those guys doing with those guns? Did that individual ever go and report any of those individuals to the police, telling the police that, listen, this man is asking for money to go buy a bullet, which means that person has a gun. You need to carry out a search because you have credible information. I'm a member of parliament. If I tell you so, I ain't gonna lie to you. Did that member of parliament ever report any such instance or incidents of individuals coming to beg for money to buy bullet? Only that person could answer that. I don't know because in the telling of the story, there was never a conclusion to suggest that that was done. Never. But they were busy blaming Ralph. They were busy blaming the ULP for the issue of crime. So I wasn't blaming Ralph. I was making sure to address the issue of the state's responsibility for keeping its citizens safe. I was sure to talk about some of the elements that are involved in the commission of crime, lawlessness that we see. Look, just today on social media, I saw rather a video of an individual scuffling up the police. I can't comment on what started it, what the circumstances were. All I saw in the video was an individual, a civilian, coupling up a police officer in uniform, busting on the button. And I have seen too many of those videos. Too many of those videos. It's not the first one I've seen. It's not the second one I've seen. It's not the third one I've seen. When you have that level of lawlessness in the society, who made, whether it was the policeman who was accosted at VGAs years ago and so on, who should be responsible for that? Ralph Gonzalez back then? And so who's responsible for the policeman being accosted, being assaulted? Again, I'm not suggesting anyway who was victim and so forth. So maybe I should use it wrong. But I grew up knowing that you must respect police officers and law enforcement people. You don't hit a policeman. You don't scuffle a couple of a policeman, especially in uniform. But that's the level of lawlessness that we have. And if you listen to the clip I played from Friday recently, just now in the program, the clip suggests that that level of lawlessness, where civilians fighting off police in uniform, should be laid squarely at the feet of the government. Now, how? How? But that's what they did. And that campaign intensified all the way to the elections. So that people were afraid, people were made to feel a sense of insecurity. As a matter of fact, Dr. Friday went as far as criticizing the judicial system, the police. He said the commissioner was incompetent and incapable. See, because according to them, the commissioner had to be a labor man. And so anybody associated with labor was incompetent. That's the level of politicization we had while the NDP was in opposition. So I was always talking. Don't ask me where I was. I was talking, you were talking. You were blaming Ralph and Labor. I was saying, no, it can't be just Ralph and Labor. It can't be just Ralph and Labor. Now, after creating that narrative, blaming Ralph and Labor, telling the whole country that the government is to be blamed, that you must put the responsibility for the crime and the violence in society at the feet of Ralph and Labour. They then came with a solution. The solution is, or was, vote for the NDP, put us there, and we will fix the crime. We will make the citizens of this country safe, our country safe. As a matter of fact, let me put up for you. Again, I love to read. I have the receipts now. Let me put up for you the NDP's plan for fighting crime. It was point 3. It's still on the website. Let me put the big deal for you. Point 3, make our country safe again. Crime and violence are out of control. Homicide, robbery, and perennial larceny are a blight on so many communities. We have a plan to tackle crime. We, and they mean the NDP, have a plan to tackle crime. Now, let's go through the logical steps again. 1, they are alarmed at the level of crime and violence in our country. That's 1. 2, the responsibility for the crime and the violence in our country that we are known for, especially crime against women and young girls, should be laid squarely at the feet of Ralph Gonsalves and the ULP. 3, the government must be blamed. You have to blame the government for the crime. 4, vote the NDP and put us in office. And 5, when in office, we will fix it because we have a plan to tackle crime. I give you 5 logical steps. I could have probably condensed them in 3, but I gave you 5. So now they're in office. And between January and March 24th, you had 10 violent crime, violent killings. 10. Between Friday and Monday, you had 3 shootings. You had 2 Monday alone. 2. And now, the same people who blamed Ralph Gonsalves and the ULP for crime, who put the responsibility for crime squarely at the feet of Ralph Gonsalves and the ULP, are saying you can't blame government for crime. What? Hold on. The same people who came at me when I called on Boom, who came at me if I called on Hot 97, who came at me when I was on Star Radio, and blamed Ralph Gonsalves and Labour for crime, following Dr. Friday and the NDP, and laying the responsibility for crime and violence squarely at the feet of Ralph Gonsalves and Labour, are now telling me crime is multifaceted, are now telling me you can't blame the government for crime, and if you criticize, you're unpatriotic. I saw somebody post, let's hold hands together and build our country. Well, apparently, there was no need to build the country before. Well, that could be one of 2 things. It means that the country was fine and not broken, not falling down, so you didn't need to build it. Or it could also mean that you didn't feel the need to build it because your government was not in charge. Your party wasn't in government. So you didn't feel the need to build nothing. There was no need for togetherness. I remember, When Labour won in 2001 and Ralph said together now, Ruth Woods at a meeting said, we ain't want no together now, let them stay Labour and we go stay NDP. So during the period of ULP in office, those of you who supported the NDP never saw the need to come together and support anything and work together and build nothing. Your only role is to criticize and blame. But now, you have an issue of crime, thing gone away, and Sehon Marshall is supposed to come and say, oh, but you know, crime is complicated, crime is complex, crime is multifaceted. There are many causes of crime, and you have to look at the root causes. You can't blame government. I'm supposed to come and say that now. But when I said that a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, you shout me down and tell me, shut up. You shout me down and tell me I'm licking boots and I'm singing for me supper. So if I say no, what am I doing? I'm building country. If I say no, what doing? I'm being patriotic. So under the ULP's administration, when I caution that crime is multifaceted and complex, and they can't blame government, I'm licking boots, I'm singing for supper. The worst things were said about me. But now, I'm expected to see that because we have a country to build. When people come, the people who you told, not me, not me, the people who you, Godwin Friday, and Sinclair Leacock, and Fitz Bramble, and the supporters of the NDP, when you called into radio and so forth, the people who listened to you when you told them to blame Ralph and Labour for crime and violence in Mr. Grenadines, what are you saying to them now? You can't tell them blame Ralph and Labour. I mean, although I've seen some of you try, but you can't tell them blame Ralph and Labour because Ralph and Labour are not in charge. They're not the policy makers. So they are going to do exactly what you've always told them to do. They're going to blame the government. They're going to put the responsibility of crime and violence squarely at the feet of Godwin Friday and the NDP because that's what you told them to do. You, Godwin Friday, told them that the government is to be blamed for crime. So you want my help to tell them no? You want me come and hold your hand and sing kumbaya and tell them no? No? Now that they're doing what you've told them to do for all the years that you were opposition leader, and even before that, you want my help to try and convince them otherwise? Me incredible on the matter. I like in boots. The only message I have for them, the only message I have for the people who are looking at you now to fix the crime situation because they're blaming you, is the one message I've always had that you told me was rubbish. It's the one message I've always had that you boo me down and tell me I'm licking boots for. It's the one message and the consistent message I've preached that you say is singing for me supper. And you convinced them, Doctor. You were convincing Dr. Friday. I was not. You convinced them that the issue of violent crimes in our country is the fault of Ralph and Labour. It's the fault of the government. I'm not sure if you didn't realize that you were auditioning to be prime minister and that your party was going to be government one day and that you were going to have the issue of crime to deal with. I'm not sure if you recognize that. And having recognized that, you would then appreciate and be cautious knowing that at some point in time, you would have to deal with the issue of crime. And the same way you tell people to blame government because it's government fault, they could blame you. You didn't think about that? So, you, Minister of National Security, run Ghana, Taiwan. Seems that people are playing right, so they jump on plane. Ghana, Taiwan, three of them. Couldn't understand the composition of the delegation at all. But, oh well, it's not main government, it's union government. So, they send them. I have my theory as to why Leakak went on Friday, the first state visit, or the first official visit of our member of the government to Taiwan. A close ally is Leakak, not Friday. I have a reason, I have a theory, but I ain't going to share it yet. I ain't going to share it yet. As a matter of fact, let me share it, man. Let me share it. So, remember the NDP had said that if they won, they were going to switch from mainland China to Taiwan. Now, they get Chinese money. The NDP get Chinese money. Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you remember, during the opposition years, they sent a delegation to China. Now, this is not a criticism because parties get funding for the campaign. So where the NDP get money for the campaign from, that's up to them. But it's a quid pro quo. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. The deal is when you win, you switch into China. But lo and behold, the elections happened, and apparently different fingers were in the juice there. Different players were involved. Their well-funded campaign drew funding from diverse sources, and these sources were not all compatible. There remains incompatibility with the various sources of funding for their campaign. And so they were instructed by one of their sources to back off of the China thing there. The influence of China in the region is too great. We can't have the expansion. So back off. So how do I appease my Chinese funders and my other funders when they want different things? One of the power player funders say, stick with Taiwan, but I don't give my Chinese the commitment that they come in China. How do I appease them? Here's what the NDP decided. I'm not sure it's Friday, or maybe the handlers. Listen, to save face, you're going to send a delegation to China, but you can't go as prime minister. That would be too strong a statement. If the head of government goes, have a state visit, possibly meet with the president and so forth, that is too strong a statement and a commitment. So send somebody else. Send somebody that is sufficiently senior, but not the head of state. So you have deniability. When you sit down with the Chinese, you could always say, man, oh, you notice I didn't go. I didn't go, man. Didn't go. I sent somebody because my commitment is with you. So don't be surprised if Friday would himself would meet with the Chinese officials, while Leakak meet with the Taiwanese officials. That's my theory. I don't analyze that. So that Taiwan trip was a sham trip to save face. To save face. The Prime Minister cargo, because that's too serious. That will send too strong a message that the Chinese will be saying that now, boy, like the party really sticking with Taiwan. And that will be bacchanal. So let me send somebody else. Sufficiently senior, so the Taiwan is going to be okay because the deputy prime minister, commanding minister of national security, the Taiwan is going to be okay with that. Because after all, we have diplomatic relations and senior member of government. But trust me, the real backdoor negotiations and talking I believe Friday himself is meeting with Chinese, not Taiwanese. I could be wrong. But they ain't gonna tell me nothing because based on the interaction between Leacock and the journalist, he's not obligated to anybody. He's allowed to himself. He ain't got answer a soul. He named Sinclair Leacock, beat my chest. Roar. I do what I want, I ain't gotta tell you nothing. Don't start. Don't start. So he went, oh, we're going to try and get some vehicles and we're going to work on national security issues. But you have a situation of crime to fix because the people who voted you are expecting you to fix the crime the way that you promised them. Remember, the last government was responsible. They were blameworthy. They were incompetent. They didn't care. They didn't do nothing. They couldn't do nothing. They were out of ideas. You have a plan to fix it. Friday, take the wheel. You see, the ship of state was sailing and Vincentians changed captain because captain made certain promises. Friday, take the wheel. And the expectation is not that you will point fingers and look for scapegoats. And notice everybody's scapegoating everybody now. Bramble scapegoating public servants. Leacock scapegoating public servants. Philip scapegoating teachers. I guess eventually go here, Leacock start to scapegoat police. Are waiting. Because the cluelessness of the administration is coming out day by day and with each passing moment. And so they don't know how to address them. They don't know how to address the real and pressing issues. That's why Aswal had to catch a tantrum the other day. And more tantrums are there to have it to be had, Just like our Aswal promised that the teachers they will come out and protest, the Vincentian public that is already getting frustrated with the incompetence of the new government. The few shot, And so before March done, we had 10 murders. Let's see how many we've had we will have in April, and in May, and in June, and in July. Because you made a big deal. A big deal. Not purely from a standpoint of national security, but from partisan politics. And so, having gone down that road, please expect that the people you took down that road with you are right there watching you and asking, so boss, we're going to know. Boss, it's ten more that we don't have. We only 3 months in the air. 10 months. Sorry, 3 months in the air, 10 murders. If this continues, we in for a 40 plus year. But you can't come and give me a 40 plus homicide year. You're supposed to fix that. In one of the articles I read, you made reference to 2003 when there were only 13 murders that year. I hope that is where you're carrying us back to. Because you're going to fix it. You are going to fix it. Now, I want you to fix it. Because like you said in one of your speeches, I spent time watching the speeches yesterday, last night, today. There are plenty. You talk about the church go picking up groceries from church, the nurse going home from work and so forth, and the person at the karaoke bar. I like karaoke. I want to go karaoke and sing and not be worried that somebody would come to a karaoke bar and shoot up or spray bullet in broad daylight, chop up nobody, and oops, that don't happen. I don't want to trivialize it, so I don't want to come off trivial. But understand you were elected to fix the situation you campaigned on successfully. And you were able to convince Vincentians to see it your way. And what was your way? The responsibility of crime and violence have to be placed squarely at the feet of the government. The government is responsible for crime. That's not Sehon Marshall talking. That's Sehon Marshall quoting Godwin Friday. As a matter of fact, as I am here, maybe I should, for one last time, let Godwin Friday say it himself. Because I don't want nobody to say, Dr. Friday say so. Somebody might come and say, oh, that was, you don't know the context. So let me put it in his own words. He can talk. He's a bright boy. He's a lawyer. Take it away, Godwin.
And violence, especially crime against women and young girls. These are the things that our country are known for. We have to reverse that history. It is not handed down to us as something immutable, unchangeable. These are things that we can shape for ourselves. We have to lay the blame for that at Ralph Gonsalves and the ULP feet. Government is to blame.
Government is to blame. So, Dr. Friday, whether you like it or not, whether you want it or not, the citizens of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, following your advice, should lay the blame squarely at the feet of Godwin Friday and the NDP, the blame of the violent crimes that we are experiencing. Based on your advice, based on your statement, your government is to be blamed. Now, I would end by saying consistently that I believe that crime is a very complex matter. That there isn't a single cause of crime. That no government is to be blamed solely for crimes being committed by citizens. Even as the state has a very significant, important role of ensuring the safety of its citizens. The state has to look at ways of addressing some of the causes of crime. I remember one time I was in Nice Radio. I was on the program with both Francois and what's his name again? Brad Alexander. And I said, let's talk about crime. The government, when Ralph came into office, he said you could be tough on crime and because of crime. And he built police stations, he increased the number of police being trained, he bought vehicles and so on. I mean, he did many of the things that a responsible government would do in an attempt to tackle crime. Let's see what you're going to do differently to fix the problem that you said you should be blamed for. You and your government should be blamed for. That's what you said, not me. So while I would continue to say that crime is complex, multifaceted, and requires a collective approach from stakeholders, and that government cannot be blamed out of hand for crime, you all have to listen to me. You all have to listen to me. Listen to the man that you all voted for and do as he instructed. Let me thank you guys for tuning in tonight. As you suspect, it's in the morning my time. Even though I recorded it, It's in the morning. It's literally after midnight. I'm up recording to make sure that by 2 a.m. my time, which is 9 p.m. Thursday your time, you have this program ready to go. Until next Thursday, God's willing, when I'm back with you with another edition of Play with Sean Marshall. Let me wish you a great weekend and God bless.